Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the West Northamptonshire series, one of the two districts that make up the county of Northamptonshire. With 166 parishes, there's a lot to get through. Let's cross another one off. Good morning everybody, welcome back to West Northamptonshire, and we're beginning this episode on a bridge. And you might be able to hear what's underneath this bridge. It's a major road. It's a motorway, in fact. Here we go. There it is. That, my friends, is the M45. And it runs under this footbridge, which looks to me like it used to be, I don't know, some kind of road at one point. It's not wide enough to be a normal road, but maybe an access road to something. I don't know. There is still a gate at this end of it. Anyway, this is where we're beginning our route around a place which has not just a motorway, but a major railway tunnel as well. This is the parish of Kilsby. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like, and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Kilsby is situated a short distance south of Northamptonshire's border with Warwickshire, approximately 5 miles southeast of Rugby. The parish includes Barby Nortoft, a small hamlet. The parish's eastern side is bounded by the old route of the Roman Watling Street, and the village itself is sited on the crossing of two former medieval drove routes. It gives its name to the Kilsby Tunnel, a railway tunnel on the West Coast Main Line. Between 1881 and 1960, the village used to have a railway station on the Northampton Loop, around a mile away. One of the village's more unusual claims to fame centres around the A361 road, which terminates here at a junction with the A5. The A361 is the longest three-digit road in Britain. Kilsby is not a small place and certainly not what you'd call sleepy. It has over 1,200 residents and a number of thriving community groups. And Kilsby keeps all those people who call this their home up to date with a bi-monthly village newsletter called the Kilsby Chronicle, which is also published online. It also has a rich history, which was recorded by way of 9 lottery-funded information boards, which form the Kilsby Heritage Trail, celebrating the work of the late local historian Gren Hatton. We'll see those as we walk around, so let's go and learn about Kilsby. Welcome to Kilsby, a village so nice that even Bert and Ernie have decided to live here. Well, one of them anyway. That's a wonderful piece of topiary. It's not long before we encounter the first of the Kilsby Heritage Trail boards, which are scattered around the place. This one tells us about Kilsby Longhouse, which was sited over the road from here. It seems likely this whole area was the village's Withy Croft, an area of low-lying land where willow shoots were grown, and the longhouse was where a willow weaver would have lived. So Nikki's found another board here under a tree. What's it saying, Nikki?
Well, it's talking about Malt Mill Green.
Malt Mill Green?
Yep, the smithy and Emery Farm. The smithy, I can see it's just under the tree up there. I spotted that.
Okay.
So yeah, so we're on this bit of green here. We're facing, this board faces that way, so the smithy's kind of behind us and the farm is over there.
Yeah.
Or was over there.
Yeah, and we're not far away from Watling Street. That's the Roman road.
Yeah.
Plenty on this board to get your teeth into.
It looks like a little bit further on there used to be a wheelwrights, and there was a saddler at the back of it as well, so it's very much a country occupations centred around this green here in the middle.
Absolutely right. Around onto Chapel Street, we've got Kilsby's United Reformed Church. This was an independent chapel, and it gives its name to Independent Street, which we'll come across further around the route. This board tells us about the famously unconventional Welsh writer and lecturer James Rhys-Jones, better known as Kilsby Jones. He was minister at the chapel between 1840 and 1850. Kilsby has a primary school, and this is it. Children here are taught in 6 classes, all of which are named with trees. Those are chestnut, cherry, cedar, hazel, hawthorn and maple. Okay, so we're on Church Walk now, heading for the second of the 3 religious buildings that are on this route. When we were outside the school just now, the school notice board had something about cuckooing, which is apparently a local problem. I had no idea what it was, but Nikki does.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that it's not something that is hugely prevalent in this area, because you wouldn't want to see that kind of crime in such a pretty village.
There's been a church in Kilsby since the 13th century, and the present old stone building still stands to serve the village. Just before we go into the churchyard, there's another board to read. This one tells us about Kilsby Hall, which is away to our right. It's an 18th century Georgian building now, but the original Kilsby Hall dated back to 1390, built on the instruction of the Bishop of Lincoln. Here's the war memorial in the churchyard. Interestingly, the church hasn't always been dedicated to St. Faith. It had an earlier dedication to St. Andrew, revealed by some 15th century documents. It might even have had an earlier dedication to St. Denis. It was originally founded in the 1100s as a daughter chapel to St. Mary's in Barby. The 2 villages still share a priest to this day. Now we're at the George Hotel, which was originally made of stone and it was thatched. Named after King George III, it was rebuilt in 1838 using the same bricks that would make Kilsby's largest feature. Yet more information boards. What's on this one?
Okay, so we're talking about a brickyard on this one.
A brickyard. Where was said brickyard then?
Well, just having a look. $1 million bricks for the Kilsby Tunnel.
Yes, the Kilsby Tunnel, which we haven't spoken about yet. We will do though.
Then we've got the George Hotel.
That's over the road.
And some old schools, the National School and the Board School.
And most interestingly to me, the A361 was a turnpike. Yes, this was a turnpike and a Roman road too. This is Watling Street, which has been bypassed at this point by a newer stretch of the A5. Check out those birds on this roof, by the way. After crossing the A5, which by the way is not an easy task, we're now in Kilsby Cemetery. There's a small notice board in here, so Nikki did what is now constitutional. Give us a thumbs up, girl. The cemetery occupies a gentle slope to the east of the A5. It's a quiet cemetery despite being so close to that busy route. The cemetery was opened in 1907. There are 2 war graves in here, one from each of the World Wars. This one is Private P. Clark of the 31st Battalion, who was just 18 at the time of his death. The other is Sergeant Beach of 101 Squadron of the RAF. From the cemetery, you can see one of the air shafts for Kilsby Tunnel, designed and engineered by Robert Stevenson. At the time of its opening, it was the longest railway tunnel ever constructed. We're just idly minding our own business, walking down here towards our next sort of area, and Nikki shouts, "Is that a mushroom?"
It's a big fungus of some kind.
Well, it is. It is a mushroom. A big one. Yet more boards. There were 2 here. This one is about walking routes mainly, but where I'm pointing to shows you the route of the railway line through Kilsby Tunnel. The other board tells us about Kilsby's gibbet, which stood on this corner. This is where criminals would have been hung. Village tradition records there was a hangman's house too, and according to this, it was here where the village hall now stands. The land this stands on was given to the village by the Cowley family in 1945, so its official name is the Edith Catherine Cowley Memorial Hall. It was opened in 1953. In 1986, an extension named the Kilsby Room was built, and in 1995 a new entrance hall and storage rooms were added. On the gates, there's some small memorials. Over the road is Kilsby House Care Home, registered to cater for those with dementia, physical disabilities and sensory impairments. This has a total of 34 rooms, 29 single and 5 shared. Okay, next stop is the playing field, which we get to by taking this little path up to the left. And Nikki's just told me an interesting little fact about these railings. Quite often we see at the end of footpaths railings like these, and I never knew what the idea was behind them, but Nikki apparently knows more than I do. It's apparently to stop accidents, isn't it, Nikki?
Yeah, it's a safety feature. So, you know, imagine you've got, you know, a little kiddie comes running out the playing field. If these railings were here, what was to stop them running on the road? They weren't there. So, you know, it's like a barrier, and it is a safety feature.
Centrally located with a good set of access points from pretty much every direction is Kilsby Village Park. It's described by the locals as safe, clean and great for kids. They all love the zip wire. I think you'll agree Kilsby has lots of variation when it comes to housing. I don't think Northamptonshire has a trademark style, but this one is the grandest on today's route. I think it's generally residential areas now. I don't think there's really much in the way of landmarks, but you never know, there could be something else to see as we head back towards the car. Who knows? This board was full of interesting bits. This is where the village's wash pit was located, and the red house you can see on this, Laurelcroft, was where Sir Frank Whittle lived briefly in 1948. At this end of the village there's Kilsby's other pub. This is the Red Lion on Main Street. It's a family-run village pub boasting a lovely garden and a secure children's play area. Opposite the pub is Hunt House, a 16th century building whose name comes from a 1768 London court case which referred to the fictional man Hugh Hunt. It's now guest accommodation. And around the back of the pub, really well hidden out of sight, Kilsby has a village shop run by volunteers. This was established following the closure of the previous village shop in 2016. Okay, so now we're on Essen Lane, which is a one-way street. It's the only one-way street on the route, I think. More chocolate box houses down here, thatched cottages. I do love them. I love seeing them. They're just so characterful, and I know I overuse that word at times, but yeah, it just makes a change from seeing detached houses, semi-detached houses that all look the same, because no two thatched cottages look the same. That's just my opinion. You know, there may actually be similar in various ways, but yeah, generally speaking, if you're looking at a normal detached house or a semi-detached house, they can look samey. Thatched ones don't. At the end of Essen Lane there's a board which chronicles Kilsby's history through the ages. Kilsby was originally known as Chiddersby, and it means the settlement of the Saxon lord's son, Childer. There's another parish notice board next to this, and this one was advertising a summer fete. Stalls, food and drink, a raffle, and live music. Kilsby people, was this any good? Let me know below. This board is in front of Cedar Lodge. That's the house where Robert Stevenson, the man behind the Kilsby Tunnel, lived. In the garden, there's a concrete model of the tunnel's mouth. And a village this size can't be without a defibrillator these days, so that's what you'll find in the old red phone box, which is practically outside Cedar Lodge's door. Okay, we're heading towards the end of the route now. There's really only a few more paces to go. I've just spotted a bus stop here. I don't think I've talked about buses yet in this one. There we are. bus stop straight in front of me, and you can see behind that there's a Christmas tree. So this must be where the Christmas tree is every year, and it's probably just turned on and made to look nice at Christmas time. You've heard that one before. There you go. Wonder how that's coping in the summer heat. And with the walk almost complete, our last act is to pass by this attractive corner and back towards the banks, where we began about an hour and a quarter ago. Nice village, wouldn't you agree? Alright, I'm back on Arnold's Way. It's time for today's picture bit, and there's going to be no prizes for guessing what this is going to focus on mostly. Kilsby Tunnel. So here's some more about the Kilsby Tunnel. We've mentioned a few facts already, but there's some more to tell you. Surprisingly, the tunnel's portals and its ventilation shafts weren't listed until 1987. The tunnel is part of the West Coast Main Line, which was formerly known as the London and Birmingham Railway, and it was developed by that man, Robert Stephenson. The line wasn't supposed to run this way, but thanks to the House of Lords rejecting the initial planned route, Stephenson surveyed an alternative which would include the tunnel right here. It had some construction issues and took much longer to build than planned, mainly due to a roof collapse and consequential flooding. It cost almost £100,000 to build, and remember, this was the 1830s. Back then, that was an amazing amount of money. An unusual feature of the tunnel is the size of its castellated ventilation shafts, which were adapted from 10 of the working shafts used during its construction. An estimated 400 trains now use the tunnel daily. Okay, back to the beginning, and the M45 is just behind those trees where I began quite a while ago now. I think it's been about an hour and a quarter, this one, so a little bit longer than I anticipated, but it's a big place, it's Kilsby. Lots to talk about, lots to see, and certainly been very interesting to put on the map. And it's time for me to move on to my next one here in West Northamptonshire, and to do that I've got to drive through the town of Crick to get to it, because it's just to the north of Crick as we start to head back home. I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot. This has been the parish of Kilsby, and I'm out.